Welcome, traveler. Welcome. Well, today we journey along the most important ancient roads and sea routes. So I'm gonna trace on the map where the silk, amber, spice, and gold once moved quietly beneath the stars. And we're gonna discover the major paths from the bustling caravans, cities, to the distant lands. Let your mind wander as we explore the treasures of time, one gentle stroke at a time. Ready? Let's begin. And first, I'm gonna begin with one of the most well-known, the Silk Road. The Silk Road, who connected ancient China with European cities. Well, ancient European cities. It was the longest route and started from Chang'an and Luoyang, ancient cities. Luoyang and Chang'an. So from here, Chang'an. Wow, it had over 6,400 kilometers in length. It connected the cities across the route. Okay, so let's try some guys. Miran, another trade hub. Miran, and after that crossing the Himalayan mountains. So Guha, I remember. Okay. And here it divided because it was not a single route or a road. It was mostly like a network of roads. And one of the most important stops was Samarkand. Somewhere in this area. Okay. And after that, to the south, to the Caspian Sea at Rai. And the second part was to Baghdad. Baghdad was another important trade hub. Baghdad. After that to Palmyra. And Antioch, one of the final destinations, and here the silk was loaded up on ships and distributed across the European continent. And another one route was to Tyre. So, like I said, it was more like a network of roads, not a single trade route. The Silk Road. The period of the Silk Road, active period, was roughly between 130 BCE and 1453 CE. So here is the Silk Road. Main goods that were traded, transited, silk, porcelain, paper, and tea. Okay, that was the Silk Road. So the region was, in China, Xi'an region, linking East Asia to Mediterranean. The Silk Road declined after Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman blocked the trade to the west in 1453. Some quirky fact is that Roman aristocrats reportedly spent the equivalent of today's millions on Chinese silk just to wear it only once at parties. As some transportation methods, camels were used on the route because camels could carry up to 200 kilograms of goods and walk for days without drinking a drop of water. Another quirky fact, but this is with the question mark, is related to the paper. Paper traveled along this route, eventually making Gutenberg's printing press possible. Now, this was the Silk Road. Let's trace the spice route. Well, the spice route was something that was close to the Silk Road. It mostly consisted in maritime routes from India and Southeast Asia to Europe. And let's trace it. Alright, so the spice route started mostly from India Peninsula, and even from China. Okay, I will try to trace the route somehow. Dotted. Okay, someone does great. Alright. The spice route, so I just this is the spice route. Spice route. An important stop was in Ceylon. Here the tea was traded, have been traded good, then into the southern horn of India, and important stop was Calcutta or Calicut, Indian trader hub and port. And here there were two. One head up to the Persian Gulf, and the second one through the Gulf of Aden into the Red Sea. Alright, so let's is heading up to the Persian Gulf, through the Persian Gulf. And one important stop was in Hormuz, a major port, Hormuz. And after that, through the Persian Gulf and into Baghdad. Somehow, later, this was used again. It was the maritime Silk Road, but it was generically named the Spice Road because with the help of the ships they could carry more goods and mostly spice. Alright, then next I will trace the second route that connected Calicut with Aden. Somewhere here, Aden. And then through the Red Sea. Well, important fact, at that time the Suez Canal hadn't been built yet. So here, mostly all the spices were loaded into the camels and traveled through the desert of Egypt and Sinai Peninsula to reach Alexandria in Egypt, where the spices were loaded up again into ships and distributed across Europe, mostly to Venice. I will trace the route. Okay, that's my tag right there. Venice was a major trading point, and Genoa. So Venice, Genoa. Alright, so here is how the spice route is looking. What kind of spice were mostly transited? Well, from China, ginger, and cinnamon. From Malacca or from Vietnam, Thailand area, nutmeg, tea from Ceylon, pepper from India, cardamom and cloves from India. The active period of the spice route was onward 2000 BCE, BCE until 15th to 17th centuries. 15th to 17th centuries. Historical facts controlled at different times by Arabs, Indian, and later Portuguese Dutch traders. Spices were worth more than gold by back then because they were rare, and in Europe there were not to be found due to their exotic origins, so only the elites could afford to buy spice. Back then, Venice became rich by controlling the spice distribution. Nutmeg was once to believed to ward off the plague. People wore it in pouches around their neck. The mostly seeked spice was cinnamon and black pepper from India. The black pepper was so valued that once was used as a currency, and Roman tax collectors accepted black pepper only, as currency. The spice race pushed explorers like Vasco da Gama to sail around Africa. Good. Next. The Amber Road. Amber Road. Well, Amber Road had a length of 1200 kilometers and connected the Baltic areas with Rome. The active period started in Bronze Age, so Amber Road let's start. Amber Road started in this area, modern day Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, and is another trade route not well known, on which there were traded amber furs and honey, and connected the Baltic areas with Rome. So they were traded amber furs and honey. This connection was made via the Central Europe, and there were a few major points like trade hubs. Amber was prized in Rome as gold of the North, so amber was nicknamed gold of the North. Gold of the North. Archaeological finds show amber beads as well in Egyptian tombs. What is amber? Well, amber is fossilized tree resin and can trap ancient insects inside like a prehistoric time capsules, preserving them over centuries. Ancient traders sometimes pass it off yellow glass as amber, one of the earliest cases of counterfeiting. Some Roman gladiators wore amber amulets for good luck in the arena. Amber Road. Next is the Gold South trade route, and these started from Africa, Northern Africa, and is as well generic named or entitled trans-Saharan gold salt trade. The length varied, but it started mostly from this area, so gold, salt, trade route. And there was not a single route, it was a network of routes, all of them transporting gold and salt to the Mediterranean major city ports. So, for example, I will trace some lines here. Okay, one. Alright, so one of the important major trade hubs was Agadez, city of Agadez. 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 And Zinder. Another major point was Cairo. Cairo. And so as Tripoli. Tripoli. As well as Marrakesh. In Marrakesh. Marrakesh. In modern day Morocco. Alright, so active period 8 to 16th century. What goods were traded along these paths? Gold, mostly, salt, ivory, and slaves. So, the trade routes linked West African kingdoms, Mali, Ghana, Songhai with North Africa. In the ports, the goods were loaded onto ships and transported to the major trading hub ports in Europe. Timbuktu was a major scholarly center as well as a trade hub. Well, let's mention salt, because salt back then was so valuable that it was sometimes traded weight for weight with gold. The transportation method were the same as on the Silk Road. They used camel caravans on the deserted areas, and then they loaded the cargo into ships. Some caravans could hold up to 12,000 camels at once. Salt slabs were carried for hundreds of miles under extreme heat of 50 degrees Celsius. The richest man in history, Mansa Musa, gained his fortune through trading goods from Northern Africa to Europe. and his spending reportedly caused inflation in Cairo for years, making a real decline of the city. Right. And now the fifth route, which is not so many of you didn't heard about or haven't heard about, is the incense. Incense. Incense route. What is the incense route? Well, the incense route is another ancient route linking Arabia to the Mediterranean coast. Well, mostly connecting Arabia trade hubs with Mediterranean coast and Mesopotamia, as well with India. Alright, so let's try to trace some lines here. Right, so is the one is connecting the production areas with Aden, and then with via the ships with India, Arabia, and the peninsula had many ports on the Indian Oceans, like Moscow, Ghana, and all of them were connected by land first, and then another one is to connect with the linking Southern Arabia Peninsula with Persian Gulf in Oman, right, along the coast of the Red Sea in a big trading hub or city was Yahrib. Dedan, and with Petra, and Inyare, Tire, good, and yeah, on the side of so Incense Route with the land, using only the land they connected to ancient Mesopotamia. From Dedan, there was a route going to the Mesopotamian area. Yeah. Alright. The Incense Route had some linkage with, as well with Parikasa here in India. So, something like this. Parikasa. And Sabarikum in Pakistan, modern day Pakistan. Sabarikum, Sabarikum. Okay, let's trace. So this could be the Incense Route. Well, now let's switch to the facts. Length around 2000 kilometers. The active period was 3rd century. mine goods that were traded, transported, gems, spice, and mirch. So started mostly in the southern Arabia and ran from southern Arabia to the Mediterranean and Mesopotamia. Mostly the goods were used in religious ceremonies across Egypt, Greece, and Mesopotamia. The Petra builders controlled and taxed the route, making it declined in the 2nd century. Okay, so what was that? The mirror was used in ancient Egyptian embalming rituals. So, mirror. Roman writers complained about too much incense at elite banquets, claiming it made quests dizzy. Yeah. Well, now let's have a look. So I traced the Silk Road, which was the most renowned trade route in ancient times. Then the Spice Route, well, which in terms of timeline was the longest active route from ancient times until 16th century. The Amber Road, which was or is not well renowned, but this is how amber got its value in ancient times as a precious stones, trading or transporting from the Baltic areas until Rome mostly, and the gold, salt, ivory, or the gold salt route from northern Africa areas to the Mediterranean, and the Incense Route, which connected Arabia with Mediterranean coasts and Mesopotamia. Well, mostly only very high valuable goods were traded along these paths. And this is how many ancient kingdoms have flourished, having access to exotic goods like spices, cinnamon, pepper, salt, and so on. Something like today may sound very common, but back then they were so precious, more precious than gold. Our journey along these ancient trade routes come to a close end, but the stories they carried lived on in the soft winds of quiet maps. Thank you for traveling with me through this geographical, historical, quirky fact ASMR session, and until next time, rest well. I hope you feel more relaxed now, and of course, I wish you all the best. Bye bye.